Your skin is dehydrated right now, and drinking more water alone will not fix it. Not because water does not matter, it matters enormously, but because the way you are currently drinking water, the timing, the temperature, the distribution across the day, and the specific form in which that water is reaching your skin cells is almost certainly not the way that produces the results you are looking for. And after 60, this distinction stops being a minor detail and becomes the difference between skin that continues declining on the trajectory most people accept as inevitable and skin that begins recovering the cellular hydration, the plumpness, the resilience, and the specific quality of luminosity that most people over 60 have quietly stopped expecting to see again. What you're about to discover is not a product, it is not a supplement. It is a precise, biologically grounded adjustment to something you are already doing every single day that costs nothing, and that the research on skin aging after 60 suggests may be one of the most powerful and most consistently overlooked interventions available to anyone who wants their skin to look and feel genuinely different from the outside in. Most people over 60 have developed a relationship with their skin that is characterized by a kind of gentle resignation. The lines are deeper than they used to be. The texture has changed in ways that no cream has fully reversed. The dryness persists regardless of how faithfully the moisturizer is applied. The firmness that was there in the 40s and even the early 50s has retreated in ways that feel permanent and beyond the reach of anything practical. And most people have accepted all of this because they have been told, directly or by cultural implication, that this is simply what skin does after 60. That the decline is the story, and the best available response is to slow it slightly with the right products while accepting that the fundamental direction cannot be changed. That acceptance is understandable, but it is based on an incomplete understanding of what is actually driving the changes in the skin after 60, and what specifically can be done about it from the inside in a way that topical products simply cannot replicate. The inside is where the water trick works. And the inside is where this conversation is going. Before we go through exactly what the water trick involves and precisely why it works at the cellular and tissue level in the aging skin, I need you to hold something in your mind because we are going to return to it near the end, and it is the single most surprising element of this entire conversation for most people who encounter it. There is a specific type of water, not an exotic product, not an expensive supplement, something that exists naturally and is widely available, that research has shown does something to the water channels in aging skin cells that regular water does not do. Something that directly addresses one of the primary biological mechanisms behind why skin loses its capacity to hold moisture after 60 in a way that has nothing to do with how much water you drink, but everything to do with the specific biological activity that water triggers at the cellular level. We will get there. But the foundation has to come first because the specific recommendation only carries its full weight once you understand the biology that makes it necessary. Here is what is actually happening to your skin after 60 at the level of cells and tissue, because this is the understanding that transforms the water trick from folk wisdom into science. The skin is approximately 64% water. That water is not sitting passively in the tissue. It is actively managed, transported, and retained by a series of biological mechanisms that are all declining simultaneously in the skin after 60. Collagen production has been falling at roughly 1% per year since the mid-20s, which means that by 60, the skin has lost somewhere between 30 and 40% of the collagen that gave it its structural integrity and firmness. The hyaluronic acid that fills the spaces between skin cells and that is capable of holding up to 1,000 times its weight in water has declined substantially, reducing the water-binding capacity of the dermal tissue. The elastin fibers that gave skin its snap and resilience have stiffened and become less responsive. And the cells of the epidermis, the outer layer of the skin, have lost a significant portion of their capacity to absorb and retain water because of a decline in the expression of specific proteins called aquaporins that are embedded in their cell membranes, and that function as the primary channels through which water molecules enter and exit cells. The aquaporin story is the most important piece of the biology for understanding why the water trick works. And it is the piece that almost nobody outside of specialist dermatological research is talking about in spaces where people over 60 are actually listening. Aquaporins are channel proteins discovered in the 1990s, a discovery that earned its researchers a Nobel Prize in chemistry in 2003, and their role in skin hydration is one of the most significant findings in the science of cellular biology as it applies to the aging of the skin. Aquaporin 3 is the specific channel protein most abundant in the cells of the epidermis, and it is responsible for the transport of water and glycerol, the molecule that provides cellular lubrication and suppleness into the skin cells from the surrounding tissue fluid. When aquaporin 3 is abundant and active, skin cells absorb water efficiently, maintain their internal hydration, appear plump and firm, and recover quickly from the dehydrating effects of environmental exposure, air conditioning, heating, sun, and wind. When aquaporin 3 expression declines, which is what happens progressively after 60 in response to aging, hormonal changes, and chronic oxidative stress, the skin cells become less capable of absorbing and retaining water regardless of how much water is consumed. This is why some people over 60 drink what appears to be adequate water and still have persistently dry, dull, dehydrated-looking skin. The channels that should be transporting that water into the skin cells are working at a reduced capacity, and the water trick in its most powerful form is specifically designed to address that reduction. The first element of the water trick is the timing of morning hydration, and it is the simplest and most immediately actionable change most people can make. Consuming 2 full glasses of lukewarm water within the first 15 minutes of waking before coffee, before food, before any other substance entering the body produces a physiological effect on skin hydration that is distinct from water consumed at any other time of day. The body, after a night of sleep, is in a state of relative cellular dehydration. The digestive system is empty, and the absorption rate of water from the gastrointestinal tract into the bloodstream is at its highest efficiency. The circulation has not yet been redirected to support the demands of digestion and physical activity, and the peripheral blood vessels supplying the skin are therefore maximally receptive to the delivery of water from the bloodstream. The morning hydration window is the most biologically efficient window of the entire day for getting water from the glass into the skin cells, and the majority of people over 60 are spending it drinking coffee, which actively promotes fluid loss rather than gain. The second element is the temperature of the water consumed. Lukewarm water at or slightly above body temperature is absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract into the bloodstream measurably faster than cold water. Cold water triggers a mild protective vasoconstriction response in the stomach lining that temporarily slows the rate of water absorption. For people over 60 whose peripheral circulation is already less efficient than it was in younger decades, this temperature difference has a practical effect on how quickly and how completely water reaches the peripheral tissues, including the skin. Switching from cold water to lukewarm water does not require any equipment, any expense, or any significant adjustment to existing habits. It requires only the awareness that temperature matters and the small, deliberate choice that awareness makes possible. The third element is the distribution of water consumption throughout the day. The kidney and gastrointestinal system have a maximum rate at which they can efficiently absorb water into the bloodstream before the excess is routed toward urinary excretion. Consuming large amounts of water at once exceeds this rate and results in a significant proportion being lost before it can contribute to cellular hydration anywhere in the body, including the skin. Consuming smaller amounts, approximately 150 to 200 milliliters every 45 to 60 minutes throughout the day, maintains a steady rate of water delivery to the bloodstream that maximizes the proportion of consumed water that actually reaches the peripheral tissues. The total volume consumed does not need to increase. The distribution of that volume across the day is what changes and what produces a meaningfully different outcome in cellular hydration. And now the element I told you to hold on to, silicon-rich mineral water. Research in dermatological nutrition has found that water with naturally dissolved silica at the concentrations found in certain mineral waters, not tap water, not standard bottled water, but specific mineral waters with measurable silica content enhances the expression and activity of aquaporin 3 in skin cells. Silica is involved in collagen synthesis and in the structural integrity of connective tissue, and its presence in drinking water appears to have a direct positive effect on the water channel proteins in the cells of the aging epidermis, increasing both their number and their activity, and therefore the capacity of those cells to absorb and retain water. Studies examining silicon-rich mineral water consumption in older adults have found measurable improvements in skin hydration, skin surface quality, and the specific visual markers of skin aging that most people associate with chronic cellular dehydration. This is not about drinking more water. It is about drinking water that does more once it reaches your skin cells. And for people over 60 whose aquaporin 3 expression has already declined, that distinction is not minor. It is the biological difference between water that passes through and water that actually stays. So here's the question I want you to answer in the comments right now, and I want you to be genuinely honest because the most useful conversations in this community start with real answers. What does your current water habit actually look like in the morning? And how much attention have you been paying to when, how, and in what form you are drinking water in relation to what your skin looks and feels like? Tell me below. Because sometimes the smallest adjustment to the most ordinary daily habit is the one that produces the change you stop believing was still possible.